current situation in Sudan?
The current situation in Sudan.
Still protesting?
Yeah, it's still protesting starting from 19th of December.
Yeah.
So the protests, they go on, unabated.
It's gathering momentum.
And gathering momentum. As far as the government, al-Bashir dictatorship, they really they haven't come with any sort of initiative yet, whatsoever.
Yeah.
All they can come up with are threats on public, broadcasts. His ex-deputy came into television threatening and saying that actually this government is supported by what he described as brigades, which are there hidden shadow brigades, are protecting this government, and they are happy to take on people, prevent this government from falling.
Okay.
And this is what he came with. And the other week also one of his cronies with his political party personalities came on also in a speech, televised speech. He also mentioned that they are going to give a sort of warning to the people coming out on the street protesting, that if they continue to do that within a week or so, they are happy to have kill. And the expression he used is to chop off heads and things like that, or this sort of threats. But they all fell into deaf ears. People are out there with momentum and with an amazing degree of coordination, which is unseen. I don't know whether there is sort of a command control center. Nobody knows, because if they know where it is, they would have stricken it by now. Yeah. But they haven't done so. Is it the power of social media? We don't know, but there seem to be a great deal of coordination going on. The protest that Bashir was supposed to, for him to be some sort of show of force on Wednesday, didn't go the way he wanted, and it was a farce of some kind. Images coming out of it, obviously, showed that the protest itself was very limited, and it's all engineered because they have, people getting. They had lot of coaches, transporting people into that march from Khartoum and from outskirts of Khartoum. Not only outskirts, actually, even from far, far in the country, they brought in people. They bust them in.
Yeah. But he said that nobody can remove him, and the protest is about his removal.
But
what
do you expect of a dictator? They never have that mindset of this game is over. They never. And I recall very much, Ceausescu of Romania, and it's obvious to anyone in the world that this man is gone and he's got no future, and he just didn't believe it. Even as he was caught and brought into this sort of, I don't know whether to call it a court or kangaroo court or anyway, a revolutionary sort of, when he brought in, he still was saying, no, look, I can only submit to the judgment of the people, he said. So even at that very probably last moments of his life, he never believed that he was going to be out, removed from power. Never believed. So that's a set mind of dictatorship. Al-Bashir will never ever reach a point when he thinks that the game is over. He's never going to do that.
Because could it result to, I mean, the whole scenario going to a civil war?
No, no, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't going to go into. I think many people think that rather than him and his clique giving in, they would rather have the country go into civil war than handing in power or just remove themselves from power. Many people think that. But when we see what's happening on the discussion, the amount of dialogue that going into the country, into this, even among some of the Islamists who up to now largely upholding this regime, many of them now started to come into social media expressing their worry, and that actually, and because it's strange, when we have this on last Friday, which is yesterday, for the first time, people actually came out of mosques after Friday prayers, protesting, and even within mosques themselves, people started shouting, and they have this slogan of the regime must fall, must go now. They have this slogan going on, it's like slogan hashtag of thing.
How long will this go on for? I mean, because if
we don't know. We don't know.
Intransigence from al-Bashir, it's not bulging, and you have the protest that's not ending.
Right.
So that seems to be a stalemate, and it could be dangerous.
It could be dangerous. Obviously, you cannot rule out the potential of it, degenerated into something
Bullshit.
that nobody wants to see. I think if you look at what his inner circle are saying, particular, only one or two of them actually were brave enough to come out and express their feelings, saying that we're gonna hit and it's going to go into blood before we fall down. Only, the rest are shy. They never showed up. But obviously, in particular, his hardcore Islamists, they seem to have gone into hiding now.
Kitchen cabinet.
The kitchen cabinet, political cabinet, if not the constitutional cabinet. They went into hiding because obviously they realized that what we see on the street of Khartoum is confrontation between people and authority. Authority is using army, is using the police.
Why would they go into hiding? It's people, right-hand people.
Obviously,
is it the fear that their principle might fall?
Obviously, they possibly hiding to see some sort of negotiation or way out, because it's obvious that this thing is not gonna fizzle out, because they very much counted on time, because they know the pressure on people on the street, because people are really impoverished, means of livelihood are in trouble, and bread is not available. Everybody is, in the country is suffering and worrying about the livelihood of their families. So this is pressure on people, but people just pushed all that aside and decided to stay on the street protesting, and with a slogan of peaceful, and they keep on repeating in their slogans and in their marches in Khartoum and other city that it is peaceful. We want it peaceful, and the confrontation, and you see this amount of weapons on the streets, anti-aircraft machinery, machine guns, huge size of. Even we have last night tanks rolling into the street of Khartoum, and still people are happy to come and confront this with their bare chests.
It's turned to Chinese revolution.
Oh, absolutely, and it's an amazing sight if you look into social media. Unfortunately, few now, died already. We have very young people, and it's really, sort of a sorrowful, images coming in to see these young people falling because of the work of snipers and government agents hunting these young people to kill them, to intimidate them. I think that's a purpose. To tell them that if you come into the street, we are happy to shoot you and you will die. But people are challenging, accepting the challenge.
Yeah.
And this is where it is right now. On Wednesday, there was this huge, protest, marches going, different ones into Omdurman.
On different locations.
Yeah, in different locations, and particularly the emphasis was in Omdurman.
Yeah.
Omdurman, this is a sort of traditional capital, if you like, because if you look to the geography of Khartoum, Khartoum is a uniquely situated city, because it's got these three huge rivers around it. You have to the facing north, you have on the right, you have the Blue Nile coming into, and then you have to the left, facing north, is the White Nile, and they all meet in Khartoum. The confluence of these two majestic, huge rivers is in Khartoum, and then they all, sort of, joined going north towards Egypt, and that is where the River Nile starts. So that is a confluence between two.
Where was the march? Was it in
the capital itself, where the palace, if you like, the Republican Palace, if you like, is in the middle of these two. That is Khartoum proper, and then you have to the west of that. That is to the west of the Nile, to the west of the White Nile. You have this Omdurman, the traditional capital, the Mahadist capital, if you like, of Sudan. And you have to the other side of the river. Is north, the so-called Khartoum North, Khartoum Bari, and this is where the protest is being declared now. Will take place in Sunday. A huge one is planned for Sunday. That is tomorrow.
What do they want to concentrate if they want to make it really effective? Concentrate all their protests on the capital?
I don't know their plan, but obviously they are moving it. Probably to exhaust the forces, or they have a strategy. They are working around with it. There was a huge protest in Khartoum, then it moved to Omdurman, and obviously tomorrow it's moving to Bahri, that is Khartoum North. And when are they going to join, move jointly, all these locations? And they keep on protesting in different locations as well. In neighborhoods, this is going on day and night, by the way, in neighborhoods. So there is a great deal of organization going into this, obviously. And this is putting pressure on the government. Mm-hmm. The very fact that they come out with these ridiculous statements of we are happy to chop off heads and all this is, if anything, it shows the amount of pressure they are in.
Was that what prompted Mo Ibrahim to say what he said? That okay, the ICC should drop charges of war crime against embattled Sudanese president because of the threat.
This is
because you say if that is going to save lives, it is going to save us from a bloody civil war. Let the man go in peace. How many people have such mindset in Sudan?
Not many. Obviously, because
this is an important man. If you say something, people will listen to him.
Mo Ibrahim is a Sudanese businessman, and he's got influence all over the continent, not only in Sudan. Yeah. He is a very influential man, and obviously he never been in an agreement with this government, because as we know, he is someone who promotes democracy and good governance. Yeah. That is his mission in life.
If he's saying this, is that contradictory to his mission? Because if he's saying that if this will save lives,
Yeah. I think he on television on this. I think it was a BBC interview.
Yeah.
He was challenged on this, on two grounds. The moral ground: is it morally reconcilable for you to say the man who by himself admits killing at least 10,000 people, killing? We know the fact that what he actually is, we're talking about 300,000 people. A man who is facing very, very serious allegations of or charges, if you like, indictment.
If you check the thinking of Mo Ibrahim, it could be that is why the man is still hanging on to power. Because he knows if he should relinquish power now, he will go to ICC.
Mo Ibrahim's idea is that he would like to prevent more bloodshed, because that bloodshed is already happened.
Yeah.
But by him staying on, there is a danger of another massacre. This is what Mo Ibrahim thinks, okay? And when he was challenged on morality grounds, on moral grounds, and he said, look, it's me trying to prevent further bloodshed. And it's me being pragmatic. It's me trying to say we've got this example or model of Nelson Mandela to follow.
In your own opinion, was he being pragmatic? What do you think?
Well, when he say to himself he's being pragmatic, I cannot say no, you're not pragmatic.
No, what I mean
obviously this is
what I mean in suggestions. Look, let's drop these charges against Bashir and let him go in peace.
But the question on this, and this is where the difficulty comes, who is got the right of the victims? Who have the rights to tell the victims, because of any other consideration, we want this man to get away with it? This is a difficulty. This is a moral question. Who can step in, and put himself in the shoes of these victims and tell them, no, this man is going to get away with it because of other consideration? And when he's being challenged, Mo Ibrahim, when he's being challenged, you say, look, if any of these are your loved ones, if your uncle, if your dad, if your mom was killed the way she was killed and victimized the way she was, would you say this? And he's being challenged on this.
Yeah, but
and obviously this is a very difficult. It's moral, it's a legal question. Who is got? Have the ICC now after this can they drop the
charge? That's another question.
Telling 300,000 victims that, oh, look, there are political considerations, there are other considerations. This man will not face charge. Who's got that right? Who has got the right to tell 6 million people who have been displaced, being outrooted from their own villages, their livelihood, has changed for good?
Yeah, but
who is got the right?
I know it's a very difficult situation, because what the mind of Mo Ibrahim is to prevent bloodshed.
Yeah.
And morally, it's wrong to grant al-Bashir freedom just because you want to prevent bloodshed, because there's a blood over his head already. So how do you balance the two?
It's very difficult, because you cannot even, if you argue that there is potentially a bloodshed, right? Potentially, it's possible, but are you sure?
Yeah, what he's
is
saying
it going to happen?
Yeah,
what I think, looking at the Sudanese.
Just a minute. What he's saying is, this man is hanging on to power just because of the charges of ICC, crime against humanity that is hanging over his head. That's why he's hanging on to power. So if
presumably,
if we remove this charge, maybe it will give up power voluntarily and just go away and save Sudan.
That's assumption, but are we right to push aside wishes and accountability and morally stand on behalf of about 6 million people who have their livelihood being completely change, to say the least, and tell them to keep silent, stay away, just, look the other side.
But isn't that the cross of the matter?
Right.
The intransigence of al-Bashir not to move, because if he moves aside, many people will come after him. So stay put, and also the protesters want him move. So there's like intransigence somewhere. Nobody wants to shift.
But to be fair, on the protesters,
Yeah.
they do have this slogan going around, say we are all Darfur. This is a slogan being repeated in Khartoum as the protesters march in their marches.
I know.
They shout this: "We are all Darfur." What that means? It means that these
Bringing
people
back
they want accountability. They don't want him to get
Yeah.
So even look at this, judging by the popular protest over there, nobody is willing to allow him to go because of his of possible massacre or more bloodshed. But this is why it's been very, very tricky for everyone. It's been very interesting because of the civil, peaceful nature of it. These people prevent themselves from even hardly throw stones, when they are faced with this, tear gas showering on them,
Provocation.
They have an amount of restraint which is really nobody can see. So judging by this, I don't think this is going to go into bloodshed. But they keep emphasizing the peacefulness of their protest, and their action is peaceful. They keep on emphasizing this, and by emphasizing this, actually they are bringing in restraint, because the government itself doesn't know where to move now, because they're projecting this amount of power in the street, arms on the street, beyond even belief.
I think
But people are facing it and emphasizing that their protest is peaceful.
I think they're putting pressure on the security forces.
Absolutely.
So, that is what, I can understand more, Ibrahim. If you have a break within the security, you have the police supporting the people and the army supporting the government. That will be chaos.
Yeah, but what we know now
That
is
will be chaos, because it is very likely. I would probably encourage the people to keep on protesting, put pressure on the army, so that they'll start breaking ranks with the support for the government.
and this is what is happening with the political, at least apparently, but we cannot say for certain it is happening. But we can see on social media some of people who are being part of the hardcore of the regime, the political inner circle of the regime, started to sort of, have their doubts on for how long this is going to continue. And even one of them came out yesterday, a well-known Islamist, and said that, look, I'm now not only the streets, I'm actually inside my house. My children are coming, sort of different, because this is largely young people moving in, no matter what their background is. So they have, even within inside, reportedly, we cannot say for certain, but
there seem to be cracks.
Cracks are appearing.
Okay.
This is what is being reported. Hopefully, even within there are reports, even within the security apparatus itself, army, police. Because last night he announced some sort of
Who is Al-Bashir?
Al-Bashir changes within the high command of the army, some changes, few appointments, few retirements, and things like that. We don't know what induced this particular action, but signs. This is probably this is a sign of things to come, probably.
Okay, we'll be monitoring that.
There is a petition going on in the government to force the British government. This is because this is now international community. They haven't really taken any sort of clear stand on this. They haven't really stepped in.
Who?
International community. I'm talking about Troika, who
Okay.
yet up to now just issued maybe 1 or 2 statements asking al-Bashir not in a really forceful way, if you like, to restrain using force. But really, we haven't seen any sort of statement or anybody from US, Britain, France, or coming out.
Don't you think their hands are full? You have yellow vest in France. You have in America the government shut down. You have in Britain Brexit. So what time do they what time do they have for other international affairs?
Well, this is democracy for them, but
Exactly,
yeah.
you see.
But at least in these old cities, we haven't really seen people being snipers being on operation. Targeting
But the
young,
important thing is
innocent, unarmed
for
personnel.
For African Union to start documenting this. You see, we've got to learn from what happened in Congo, the DRC. Document all this. You find out who giving this order for people to be shot, for peaceful protest to be fired at. If you start documenting, once you have a procedure going place, people will stop it.
Yeah, I mean, this is another direction where we want the pressure on the government to come in also, not only from Troika and maybe Western government basically, or also we want this pressure to come from the side of the African Union and African states.
Yeah,
they need to step in also, putting more pressure. And we heard that Ethiopia already moved in, saying something we don't know. These are all speculation, but we don't know for certain.
Moving to secure their border? Or
No. Diplomatically.
Okay.
And also, we don't know. Egypt is not clear. Saudi, regional, these regional powers, we don't know what exactly happened. We can only go by speculation out there, but it's no statement. I haven't seen any statement from Ethiopia or from Saudi Arabia or from Egypt clearly condemning, say, the government or asking the government to use restraint. You cannot go on shooting young people the way they are doing now.
One of these nations, especially Saudi Arabia, could decide, okay, we'll give al-Bashir freedom of refugee or whatever they call it. Come and stay with us, or come and be our guest. And then Sudan can settle down, just like they did in Gambia to Jammeh. So would that not be possible?
Well, see why, as you said, with Troika, with the government shut down in America, with Britain having Brexit, yellow vests going on in the street of Paris. Saudi Arabia they've only got enough trouble in their hands, with Khashoggi issues going with Yemen, and that's a big one. So are they gonna happy to get al-Bashir big trouble with ICC behind him, with everybody thinking that look, Saudi is now becoming a refuge for these mass killers? Who is going to accept this mass killer in their land?
Then what should be the solution? Because al-Bashir will have to step down, and we have to go to a safe country where they want him. Then Sudan can go on with life. Because if not, if it's not stepping out, if unfortunately Zuma is not in South Africa again, so he could have gone to South Africa. They'll give him like asylum or whatever they call it, freedom of the country, keeping them as their guests. But nobody wants al-Bashir, even his friends, as you said, maybe Saudi Arabia and all this, Kuwait and all, they don't want anything to do with him. So what will happen? Will people keep on protesting?
What will happen?
Yeah, people keep on protesting.
People will keep on.
Okay.
The pressure will keep on mounting, but obviously I'm not ready to do this thinking exercise for al-Bashir to tell him where to go. I'm not happy to volunteer
it's not,
advice.
It's not, whether,
So,
it's not where to go, whether people are willing to take him. That's another thing.
well,
You see, because as you said, Saudi Arabia.
I'm more than happy to see him go, obviously, and even more happier to see him handed over to the Hague to stand trial for what he's, or even internally. I want him. This is my preference, actually, for him to stand in front of a free court in a free Sudan, to stand trial for what he did. Yeah. This is my preferable, obviously my preferred option. But to tell him where to go, no, thank you very much.
Okay.
What I want just to say, there is a petition going on here, for British people, a petition going on. You can see it, a Sudan petition, where the government, I think the petition is now about around 5,000 people already signed.
What's the petition
The
about?
petition is for the government, asking British government to interfere or to put pressure on the Sudanese government to stop basically targeting these peaceful protesters. That is the main. And to allow to heed.
How do you know that it's not been done already?
No, it's not been done. We haven't seen any announcement
diplomacy is not conducted in the public.
But we need to see a statement out by Foreign Office to issue, or the Prime Minister, his office, to issue, or whoever responsible, or the Parliament, to issue a clear statement. So go and look for this petition, and also you can see it on my Twitter, and I'm gonna give put the tweet out there, send it to you and other people to sign this petition. Okay, if we reach 100,000, then it's likely that the Parliament will take over and discuss this. This is what should be our aim, to reach 1,000.
When you come back, maybe you give us the petition link to the petition.
Absolutely, I'll do that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. I think it's there now.